All right. Now let's move into understanding CPR. CPR is a very, very powerful way to look at the markets. CPR is very, very useful for us to take some trades. And that's what we are going to do here. We are going to see now how can we use CPR and how can we interpret it for further action. All right. So for those who are revisiting CPR or thinking about CPR. So let me just give you a brief idea on what exactly is CPR, what are some important elements of CPR, so that when we get into the particular page of NeoTrader, you will be able to connect with what we are about to show you. All right. So let's get started with that. And let me just explain to you how exactly CPR is devised, right? CPR is nothing but it's a wafer which is created around your pivot. Okay, so this is what a CPR looks like. So you have got your pivot here, and pivot has got a top pivot which is known as TC and bottom pivot which is known as BC. And this is decided based on the previous day's range. Okay, this is decided based on the previous day's range. Based on the previous day's range, you decide on what really happens. So if the previous day's range is moving in a very sideways manner, then it reflects on the next day's CPR. Okay, so this is called as a CPR. So the distance between the top pivot and the bottom pivot is called your CPR. But then based on this, if these lines are close to each other, it is called as a narrow pivot. It's called as a narrow. All right. So it's called as a narrow pivot based on the previous day's range. Now, it may so happen that on certain days, the movement is very wide. So in such a scenario, it is highly possible that you will have three lines. These three lines, your TC, your bottom pivot, and your main pivot at a distance. So this distance is a little farther away. And that's why this is called as a wide CPR. So narrow CPR and wide CPR is every time based on the previous day's range. It can be a previous day, it can be previous week, or it can be previous month. So it takes the values of the entire day, right? If it takes the value of the entire day, it is for an intraday purpose. If it takes the value of the entire week, it is for a multi-day activity. If it takes the value for the entire month, then it is calculating for a multi-week activity. So CPR is not restricted to only an intraday play. All right. So that's what we are going to see. Now we are going to see how to use CPR across different time frames. So let's try and understand it in a step-by-step manner. So this is what is CPR. So what we do in NeoTrader is we help you quickly find out at the click of a button which stocks are narrow and which stocks are wide. Why? Because the main purpose of CPR is to tell you that is there a trend possible or not. So CPR greatly helps in identification of a trend. And now along with CPR, we are also going to be using other measures to decide your target and stop loss. All right. So we are going to be using Fibonacci measures for and Camaria measures for calculating your target and stop loss. But CPR's main purpose is to give you an identification of whether a trended move is going to occur or whether there is high possibility of a range bound action. Because if the particular stock has or is gone in a narrow phase, there is high probability. So we are focusing on the probability of a move emerging either to the upside or to the downside. And you can see here that in this scenario, if there has already been a wide move, then the probability of the stock to move again is limited. So that's what we are concentrating on. We are concentrating on how you can go in this step-by-step manner and find out how to take suitable trading action. All right.